The US gets a C plus in retirement? Well, at least that's what I saw when I was scrolling through the Wall Street Journal and came across this article. And I want to talk about it. But before we start, I want to just clarify, I have no agenda here. I think the US definitely has some major shortcomings when it comes to retirement, financial systems, and healthcare systems. But I also think the situation is not as dire as some people suggest. So again, I'm just sharing my thoughts on where I agree, where I disagree, just to have a general discussion. But I definitely don't really lean one way or the other. And again, I have no predetermined agenda. All right, and we get started with the description of the article, which says Social Security and 401k plans leave Americans less secure than retirees in much of the world, a new ranking finds. And this right here presents a common theme throughout the article. The 401k plan itself is not leaving Americans less secure. It's lack of funding it and using it that's leaving Americans less secure. But the 401k itself is not actually the problem. So just right off the bat, this article is really placing the emphasis on the government rather than on individuals to manage their own finances. And then the article goes on to basically give us this graph to show us that the US ranks 22nd behind all of these countries for their retirement systems and how they support Americans. And this graph is based off types of benefits offered, government assistance and support, personal savings, home ownership, and the amount of growth assets that people have. And while this article seems like it's trying to place the responsibility on governments, a lot of these factors are actually the responsibility of individuals, which I thought was interesting. Which brings me to my main thought while I was reading the article, which is today, a lot of the responsibility has actually shifted on the individual rather than having the government or any other central body taking care of you. And I think this is mostly discussed as a negative thing, but I actually do not think this is bad. I think it's a good thing. A lot of people look back fondly on corporate pensions where you'd go work for a company for 40 years, do your time, and then they would take care of you in retirement via a company pension. And sure, it'd be nice to know that you would be covered, but I have a few issues with this. And issue number one, it's no longer popular to stay at the same job for 40 years, which would make qualifying for one of these pensions pretty tough. Number two, companies can fire you at any time, meaning that if they choose to let you go before you qualified for the pension, then you just wasted all that time and you haven't gotten ahead on your own retirement at all. And number three, companies go bankrupt, taking down their pension fund with them. And personally, that scares me. I wouldn't want anyone else to be in charge of my livelihood. So I'm definitely fine taking my own 401k and taking control of my own future. That's fine with me. And people act like companies don't do anything to contribute today. This is where the 401k match actually comes in, where instead of the pension where they're just giving you a set amount of money every month when you're retiring, they're just giving you your retirement funds up front to invest and manage yourself. And that money's yours. So even if the company doesn't make it in the long run, it won't impact your retirement funds. All right, next I want to talk about this paragraph here, which says employers in the US aren't required to provide retirement plans to all workers. Automatic enrollment in 401k plans has helped improve participation and boosted total retirement savings, but many Americans don't have access to a 401k or choose not to put money into individual retirement accounts on their own. That's true. Not everyone has access to a 401k, but like this article just said, everyone does have access to an IRA. And if they don't have any retirement savings, it's because they chose not to use them. So again, that's not directly a responsibility of the US government. What I do think is a responsibility of the US government is financial education. I think a lot of Americans don't understand compound interest and investing. I think it's very overwhelming for a lot of people. So I think a lot of people just don't know about it. So I don't want to be too harsh on people who aren't doing it. I think a lot of people just need to be educated. And we do not do a good enough job of that. So that is the responsibility of our education system, and we totally fail. And expanding on that, American retirement savers can also withdraw savings early, shortchanging their future security. With most retirement accounts, you do have a penalty for doing that, but like this article says, you are able to do it. Again, it just comes down to financial education. Do not do this. Do not shortchange yourself. Keep your retirement funds in there. All right, this specific example I have highlighted is talking about the Netherlands and how they provide a public pension as a government, how they require companies to provide pensions, and then how individuals also have the opportunity to contribute to their own retirement accounts, which seems like a pretty good system if their country can afford it. I don't think that is gonna happen here in the United States outside of Social Security. But here's the next point I wanna bring up. I think it's dangerous to rely on countries to provide retirement as well. And again, I'm not calling out the Netherlands specifically here. I'm sure they have this set up in a great way, but just in general, it's risky to let your retirement be controlled by someone else, no matter who the organization is. For example, earlier this year, France raised their retirement age from 62 to 64, meaning you have to wait 2 extra years now to get your promised retirement benefits in France. And this was met with huge public backlash, a lot of rioting, a lot of protesting. And I fully agree that that sucks. If you were planning on getting your benefits at 62 and that's now been stretched forward, I'm with you, that would be tough. But that's still on you for leaving up your well-being to someone else's decision. I think people need to take accountability for themselves. That's the only way to guarantee to get what you need in retirement. So I think people have an idealistic approach to pensions, to government retirement programs. Again, I'm not saying these things are bad. They're good benefits that a lot of people need and depend on, but a lot of people would be better off if they manage things themselves. Like I said earlier in the video, I don't want my future finances to be managed by anyone. I want to control everything that happens in my life financially. And I think the shift from responsibility being on governments and companies, shifting more to individuals, I think that's a great change. That's a good thing. And that's pretty much what summarizes up my thoughts on the article. Again, it seems like it's trying to paint the US in a bad light for not having the proper systems put up. I agree. I think Social Security is kind of a mess. I don't think we can depend on it. Again, I think individuals need to take control of their own finances for their own retirement. Use your 401ks, use your IRAs. Save a little bit of your paycheck every month, and you'll have a much better and more dependable retirement than if someone managed that for you. So that's just my thoughts on the video. If you like this type of content, let me know down in the comments. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks, everyone.